Well.
Hey toy fans, Aaron here. Today's review is going to be looking at the Kessel Run Millennium Falcon. So let's head to that table and check this one out. And a quick look at the packaging, and of course you got a large image of the Millennium Falcon showing off some of those light features, the panels popping off and stuff. You got a cutout up at the top center for a little try-me switch. So you can push that button while it's in the box and you'll see some of the lights and stuff happen. It'll vibrate within the box. Off on the left side, of course, you got a kid holding that Falcon that's vibrating in his hand. He's quite happy about that. And then a little symbols there that shows that it lights up, has sounds, and vibrates. And another image of showing those panels popping off. On the right side, you do see the included Han Solo figure, but it's a printed image. It's not actually the figure in the bubble that you're seeing. And here's a little look at the top of the packaging showing you that this front section does come off. The cutout for pushing that button for the action, Star Wars logo there. Left side of the box, you just got that Force Link 2.0 advertisement. And then on the right side of the packaging, you got a write-up about the Millennium Falcon. And on the back side, of course, you got your product detail about the toy. Various images showing off some different features of the toy that you're getting. And of course, upper right corner, Force Link 2.0 advertisement. Let's get this thing opened up and actually just take a look at the toy itself. So here's how it looks out of the box. Obviously, you do have some assembling to do, but it's not as bad as it looks. Obviously, these panels here are what, flies off the Falcon as a toy, as a gimmick. So I wouldn't really call that part of the assembly. Really, you just got to worry about the radar dish, the little gun here. This thing goes in and out. You do have quite a few stickers that you need to put on, but you do have some instructions to help you out. First off, I got to tell you, one thing that is just super annoying is what in the world is this rattling in here? It's coming from the speaker area. I mean, just driving me nuts, like a little marble rolling around in there. Is it just me? Do any of you have this? Do you have the same sound? All right, so it's all completed, put together. Here's a look at the new Millennium Falcon. I'm going to tackle this bit by bit here, give you an overall look at the vehicle, the sculpting to it, the painting, the detail. Then I'm going to move into a comparison of this Millennium Falcon with some of the other Millennium Falcons that we've received, so you can kind of get a good size comparison of how this looks compared to the others. And then we'll hit the rest compartment by compartment. So first of all, clearly, we've got some design differences here with this Millennium Falcon. It seems maybe it's brand new, or at least it's in great condition. You got some blue painted on throughout the vehicle. Certainly the thing that stands out the most are all the panels covering the top of the vehicle. And obviously the shape is different now that we have this escape craft in the front of the vehicle. I'm sure much more will be explained in the movie, so I'm not going to get into those differences right now. Obviously, for the rest of the panels and stuff, this thing has the action feature where those panels pop off, certainly revealing a little bit more of the skeleton of the vehicle that we're used to seeing. As far as the design of the toy and such, it does look nice. It has a pretty nice sculpt to it. Having not seen the movie yet, obviously, I can't say how much more they could have gone in depth. Probably a lot more, since we know Hasbro lately in these toys has been slimming down the amount of sculpting and detailing they're doing. But what we're getting isn't awful. At least you do have some sculpting, some detailing. It certainly does resemble, like at least along the sides and stuff, these panels and stuff going on through the side of the vehicle. It does resemble what we're used to seeing of the Falcon. Again, just not as detailed as what we've seen before. Looking at the back end of this vehicle, all this blue through here, that is just a blue plastic piece. And it does not light up, which is a disappointment. So I'm just saying that now. The area that you would expect to have lights, in this case, it does not have lights. Aside from that, though, it does look just fine from the back side area. And I think at this point, I'll just take it off the turntable to help show off the top and stuff. Obviously, you see these little engine vents or whatever they are at the top of the vehicle. You do have a little bit of weathering, kind of, going along the backside a bit. The radar dish, as expected, as we've already seen for some of the images, it's a lot more flatter this time around. Sits nicely. This is one of the pieces that just snaps right in that you assemble. There's not going to be any, articulation with that. It is just a static piece sitting in there. As for the gun on the top of the vehicle, it is just a single cannon this time around. I am not certain if that is a design change or if that's just something they're going with this time. This was another one of the pieces that you snapped in, but you don't get any articulation with it. It just sits right in there. As far as the rest of the top, you got the blue paint throughout the top of the vehicle running all around it. It does have some little chips and stuff within that paint job, so it definitely has a little bit of wear showing. And then aside from that weathering on the back of the vehicle, just from those vents, no other weathering on the vehicle. So it is pretty clean looking aside from those scrapes, you know, within the paint job and that weathering at the back, as I just mentioned. As you get into the front of the vehicle, well, this is the escape pod, and you give that a pull to get it out. Try not to smack the camera. There we go. So there's this piece here. You know, it's pretty decent looking. You do have two little guns that you can pull out. Doesn't do anything, you know, it's just for looks. This is the piece that has the Force Link capabilities for the vehicle. The Falcon itself, or, you know, the main body of the ship is just its own electronics that are separate from the Force Link, as you can see. Little green stamp at the bottom of this part. Little engine detailing here, or engine sculpting rather, I should say. No special painting or anything in there. Do get a little bit of touch of paint along the side of the body, and aside from that, you know, decent sculpting. Doesn't look bad or anything. Top part of this does flip open to reveal the little compartment. Do have some nice sculpting and stuff along the top of the lid for this, and along the inside also. A little bit of the yellow carrying through that you're going to see on the interior of the vehicle, with some detailing and stuff in there. Nothing major, just little bits. And then, of course, you see the stickers that you apply. One on this side, and then one on this side over here. And then you can take your figure, lay them down in there. It does fit nicely. There's plenty of room for it to lay down. I can't say how accurate this is to the movie, you know, whether it's that thin, if they actually are sitting upright in the vehicle. Who knows? I just don't know at this point, but lid closes just fine. And I'll get into the Force Link sounds of this later in the review. And when you want to put that back in, it just slides quite nicely, and just a nice little snap to lock that back into place. Getting on over to the cockpit side, it's as you expect. You know, it's the cockpit. Looking through the window, it looks just fine. I'll get into my problems with the inside of the cockpit in just a little bit. But otherwise, the rest of the sculpting, you know, like I said, it's a decent looking vehicle. And overall, it does feel pretty nice in the hands. Like it's a decent size. You can, you know, maneuver it with one hand if you wanted to. For a child, a smaller, you know, smaller hand size and stuff. I don't think this is all that different from, you know, the vintage Millennium Falcon or the Power of the Force 2 version. And now, speaking about size, let's get into some comparisons about how this sizes up with the other Millennium Falcons that have been released. I'm going to do a top-bottom split here of the screen and not change the zoom of the camera so that everything stays pretty relative to the size of the Falcon as you see it in the shot. So first up, going to compare the Kessel Run Millennium Falcon with the mid-size Force Link 2 Millennium Falcon that came out along with this one. As you can see, obviously, definitely a size difference there, with that budget version coming in much smaller. And so that brings me to the Power of the Force 2 version Millennium Falcon. As you can see, really not that much of a size difference in terms of width. This new one is just maybe, I don't know, maybe an inch shorter in its width. In terms of the length though, which I guess maybe I should have kept this front end off the little escape pod, it's just maybe an inch longer than the Power of the Force 2 version, but if you do take that escape pod off, you know, you're going to lose a couple inches there. So this really is smaller in its length dimension, just unfortunately I left that on for the shot. And then the circumference of the cockpit, obviously smaller on this newer vehicle. As you can see, the big difference between these two versions though is that the thickness of the vehicle is much different. The Power of the Force 2 version is just a lot thicker, and certainly because there is more of a playability, more playset inside the vehicle than what we're going to get inside this Kessel Run Millennium Falcon. Now, for the life of me, I must have stuffed away my Force Awakens version Millennium Falcon because I hadn't opened it yet, so I can't pull that out for a comparison, but just for kicks, obviously it's in a whole different league. Here's the big Millennium Falcon from the Legacy Collection that was released in 2010. Obviously, just no comparison there, but hey, it gives you a size comparison. So, in case you're wondering, really at the end of the day, we've gotten a variety of Millennium Falcons released. This is just another take on a toy. And now just to finish off a look at the outside of the vehicle by looking at the bottom side. Nothing really surprising here. No real special paint applications. Just a little bit of tone difference in the panels, you know, here and there on the bottom of the vehicle. Some very small landing gear, obviously not retractable or anything, except for this front one. And when I go through the lights and sounds, I'll show what this does. But you know, I wouldn't call this retractable as such, as it's just a gimmick to activate sounds, which is pretty cool actually. So yeah, that's the bottom side. You got your battery compartment right here where it does take 3 AA batteries. And on the bottom side towards the front of your vehicle is your on-off switch for the electronics. At the 0 here, or the O, that's your off position. When it comes out of the box, it's in the one spot that gets you the lights and actions that you saw while it was in the packaging at the beginning of the video, which means the button on the left side of the vehicle, as you're looking at it with the front facing away, won't work. So, you know, just a heads up on that. You pull it out of the box, start pushing this button, nothing's going to happen. And when you flip it into the second position, that's going to give you your full range of electronics and also kind of break down the sounds that you heard at the beginning of the video. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that landing gear, that front one had a little bit of retraction to it, and that triggers some sounds with the vehicle. When you lift it up, you're going to get some takeoff sounds. So you got some flight noise, and then also you get some aircraft maneuvering sounds as you move it side to side. And then when you bring it back down, you get a landing sound. And the button on this side of the vehicle over here gets you your blaster sounds when you do single presses, and then a cannon sound when you hold it in for a longer period of time. And then for the next set of sounds, that's the button behind the canopy. That's going to give you kind of a breakdown of what you heard while it was in the packaging with that first switch. As you hit it the third time, that's when the panels explode. So first one just gets you your hyperdrive sounds. The second one gives the rumbling to the vehicle. And then the third time is when I think the alarms come in and the panels blast off. One thing to note, you have to be holding the vehicle and have that sounds of it flying already active. Otherwise, as you push the button, nothing's going to happen. So it's going to get a little noisy, but here we go. So first button push, hyperdrive sound, and your lights start to come on. As you go in there, second button push. You can't really see it, but it is rumbling in the hands, and it is quite substantial feeling. And then the third button push. And then those blue lights do turn to red. It is kind of hard to see here with all my lights on. There you go, that helps a bit. And so now with the panels off, that does of course reveal a little bit more of what we're used to seeing the top of the Falcon look like. You do have some nice sculpting and detailing in there, and a little bit of more weathering through those vents and stuff. A little bit more detailing in through here, along with some nice sculpting and stuff. A little bit of weather paint application to that. Getting into the inside of the vehicle now, you got this compartment right here that you just pop off yourself, and that reveals a little smuggler's hatch. It is not that deep, you know, but maybe at this point an inch and a quarter or something, so not a lot of depth to this vehicle. There's a little slot in there where you can take the coaxium container, and the idea is it should slide in there. Mine hits a lot of tension, you know, almost immediately, so it doesn't slide in all the way. And when I forced it, I don't know if you're seeing it, but yeah, I already scratched up the inside of that just trying to get this in, and I never got it all the way down, which also means then I'm not getting that back on with it in there. That's a bummer. Really kind of a miss right there. Otherwise, in that area, I mean, there's nice sculpting and interior stuff, lots of little wiring and whatnot sculpted in there, and then a couple stickers that you applied yourself. And then onto the other side of the back area is another smuggler compartment. Find it. There we go. Slide that off. I mean, it's again, we're a little deeper here, what, maybe an inch and a half. So it's certainly not like you're going to be standing up your figures in the area for playtime or anything, or even them sitting. In fact, even the picture just shows that the figure is laying down in there and being covered up. So, well, I mean, at least he fits, I guess, that way. Otherwise, though, obviously, you got a little bit of yellow interior painting for the area, a couple stickers that you apply yourself, and just some other various interior sculpting and stuff. So, decent looking, I guess. You know, it does look nice. Like that they at least added some paint detailing right there. And now that brings us to the cockpit of the vehicle. Opens up from the front area here. I will say we'll get to the obvious thing here in just a moment, but as far as the area itself, there's a decent sculpt going on, quite a few stickers that you apply yourself. The seat is nicely painted and stuff, you know, I mean, the area looks good. Lots of little details sculpted in there and some stickers that you apply yourself. And now let's get to the obvious thing. You do have two, whoops, you do have two flight positions as you see here, but it's only a one-seater. Why? I really don't understand the logic behind that. So here you're going to, one, make what, granted, it's like holds 4, 5, 6 people, whatever. But at least on the other vehicles, the minimum we had was 2 people that were able to sit in there. Now you only have a spot for one person, and he can't even sit behind the joystick here. So to get the figure in, this plops open because space is so tight in there now. All right, so you got him in there, but now you got this. And it's, you know, I want it to line up. If you're going to make it one person, then give him, I guess, one stick, whatever, so at least he would look normal, but it just looks totally weird. 2 sticks, 1-seater, definitely should be a 2-seater. I mean, come on, you got to have your co-pilot in there. And now for the next test for such a small area, will Chewbacca, your 3 3/4 inch solo Chewbacca, fit in the Millennium Falcon? I don't think he's going to fit in there. This area of the vehicle is just an utter disappointment to me, really. As for the rest of that canopy area, though, your top of your canopy lid here, some more stickers that you applied. A little bit of sculpting and stuff on the inside of there. So, you know, pretty nicely sculpted vehicle overall. Not overly sculpted, as we've seen in the past, but not as plain either, as we've seen other vehicles be done. And now for the part that is Force Link 2 compatible, which is the escape pod. Side to side movements and stuff give you some little different flight sounds. And then tapping it gives you some battle sounds. So some decent sounds there. You know, I mean, nothing spectacular, and obviously haven't heard this in the movie yet. I am only guessing, though, that it probably sounds pretty close to what we're going to hear in the movie. And moving on now to the included Han Solo figure. This looks to be almost identical to the Han Solo figure that we got with the Force Link 2.0 gauntlet. Only difference in this case is he is not wearing that brown coat. I should say, actually, that's the only real noticeable difference. Otherwise, I think there's just some subtle stuff. The pant color is just a little bit different tone of blue that's being used. The brown on the utility belt is a little different. So since those sculpt-wise, this is pretty much the same as the previous figure that was with the 2.0 gauntlet, I'm just going to do more of a side-by-side comparison here of the two figures. Looking at the head sculpt, obviously to me, from what I'm seeing, looks identical, as I've already said, except for the paint application. The eyes on this figure are much bigger. He's kind of like, whoa, like he's surprised and stuff. Paint-wise, though, the eyes look nice, just really huge. I will say, though, one thing that does appear to be sculpted differently is it looks like the neck is just a little thinner on this figure. It just seems much more thicker and more heavily sculpted, I guess, on the version with the jacket that came with the 2.0. I keep looking at this from all other angles, but otherwise, to me, the shirt underneath looks like it's sculpted the same. Obviously, though, in this case, the arms are different, since what you would be left with on the gauntlet version is the brown jacket on the arms. Maybe that explains why these two figures have the articulation in the wrists for swiveling, so that maybe they just didn't need to resculpt the hands then. Looking at his holster belt, much better paint job on the belt buckle. As you see on the Force Link version, that silver was just sloppily painted on. And then overall, just the brown color of the holster area, that belt is just much different. Also much more of a glossy look on the version where he's got the coat on than what we're getting with the Kessel Run Han Solo. And of course here you do see the slight difference in the blue color that's used for the pants. Otherwise, like I said, to me, really sculpting head to toe, this is very much a similar looking figure, just minus the jacket. And I'm totally fine with that. I mean, hey, we got a version with the coat on, now we got a version with the coat off. I don't mind that they use the same sculpt. I mean, it's Han Solo from the same movie, so I'm fine with that. As for the articulation of the figure, you do get your swiveling all the way around. Little bit of tilting side to side, but not as much as what we got on the Force Link Gauntlet Han Solo. And you do get some nodding up and down as well. At the arm area, they do swivel all the way around. This figure still does have the wrist articulation, as I already mentioned, and that's for both hands. The legs come pretty much straight out, and they can go all the way back if you would like to for whatever reason. As far as accessories, he does, of course, come with the blaster that we're used to seeing Han Solo with. Still a nice sculpt to it. One difference here from the version that came with the Force Link 2 Gauntlet Han Solo, the jacketed one. Much more of a gray plastic instead of a black plastic that it's sculpted with. And then as we flip around looking at the other side, there was no special paint application that came with the version where he's got the coat on. But in this case, do have a little bit of brown painting for like a wood grain handle on this blaster for the Kessel Run Han Solo. Now everything here with the weapon though is not all shiny and happy. The bottom of the holster is compared to the other version, it's sealed off. So the weapon does not slide all the way in. It kind of just rests in there, I guess. Like it doesn't slide all the way down. So as you see, that doesn't look too great there. And the other accessory that I kind of mentioned earlier, these coaxium containers. It's got a nice sculpt to it and stuff. I can't say, again, as I say often during these vehicles that we haven't seen the movie yet, is I don't know how this looked in the movie. I mean, it's got a nice sculpt to it and stuff. Don't know what the big deal about it is. You do have the little handle on the top of these containers, and then on the back of it is a little peg. So first up, the handle. That can be placed in the figure's hand. He can be holding it. You can stand him up. And with him posed and the arm down pretty close to the legs, he's got no problem standing up and holding this in the hand. And then as far as the peg sticking out on the back of the canisters, you've got a little slot inside the escape pod that you can just place that into and push that right in there. That'll hold it in place. And as far as the Force Link sounds for Han Solo.
Maybe you heard of me? Best pilot in the galaxy. Everything is under control. You ready with those coordinates?
And then, of course, sliding them.
Come on, get us out of here. Stay sharp. I've got enemy targets incoming.
All right, so on the plus side, you got some new lines with this figure in comparison to the Han Solo that we got with the Force Link Gauntlet. So that's pretty cool. At least they're not the same lines, even though the figure is mostly the same. Jacket not included here. So my overall thoughts in this set is that I'm pretty mixed on this release. There are aspects of this release of a Millennium Falcon that I certainly really like. The blast-off panels are pretty cool. They're different. Obviously, something like that is going to come into play in the movie. I'm pretty mixed, though, about the blue lights at the front of the vehicle because I don't, if they're just trying to make it show that it's flying through hyperspace, I don't feel like then that's reflective of what the vehicle actually looks like. The red lights, maybe stuff's heating up and stuff, I can dig that. But I really wish that we had lights on the back of the Falcon, certainly where they belong to show the engine glow. And that cockpit is just a mess. Should have been made to hold two figures. As we saw in the size comparisons, there's not that much difference between this one and the release of the Power of the Force 2 version. The sounds that we get with the vehicle certainly do sound great. And you get a plethora of sounds. I like the rumbling to the vehicle and stuff. So in that regards of the electronics for sounds, that's an A+ there. So yeah, there's a lot I like about this vehicle, but obviously some things that I don't like are just kind of making it hard to really like this. And so that wraps up this look at the new Kessel Run Millennium Falcon. I'd love to know what your thoughts are in that comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching.